Young Turks brought to you by Busted Tees. Go to bustedtees.com and enter promo code Young Turks to get 10% off your order.
Congressman Weiner goes on Fox News. He's going to talk to Megyn Kelly. He's introducing legislation to make sure that he recuses himself from the health care cases that are going to come before the court. Why? Because his wife takes a tremendous amount of money for her lobbying efforts, including from companies that might be affected by the healthcare law. So if the Thomas family is making a lot of money from healthcare companies or others for, the lobbying that they're doing, and she says, look, she wrote originally, I have access to insiders in D.C. Boy, is that true. They pay her for that. And then so Weiner says, well, then Clarence Thomas has a financial interest in this. He shouldn't rule in the case. It's very clear. Megyn Kelly, of course, doesn't agree because Clarence Thomas is a conservative and Fox News does conservative propaganda. Watch her lose this argument so convincingly. Cliff, the first clip on that.
Justice Thomas and his marriage and his comments about supporting his wife.
Well, what it comes down to is a pretty clear federal law that requires judges and justices to recuse themselves whenever there is an appearance of impropriety, or not an appearance of impropriety as much as an appearance of a bias in the case.
Right.
And it has certain categories that you must recuse yourself. And one of them is if you or your household, your spouse, has any financial interest in the outcome. And we found out recently that Ginny Thomas, the spouse of Justice Thomas, has received more than $700,000 from organizations whose existence is based on making sure that the health care bill is ruled unconstitutional. And it got even worse this weekend, as you pointed out in your lead-in, because Justice Thomas basically said he agreed with his wife. So now it's pretty clear that he's stated his bias in the case before it's reached him, and under the clear letter of the law, he must recuse himself.
I just want to respond to that because the first point, speaking to her interest as a lobbyist, what I'm told by Supreme Court experts, I covered the High Court for 3 years and I practiced law for 9, but what I am told by my Supreme Court expert contacts, and these are folks who are on the left, I want to state for the record, is that having any sort of a professional interest in a case, as his wife arguably does, is not grounds for recusal. It'd be a different thing if Clarence Thomas himself had stock in some company that was being affected, but they say this is not that. But I want to address your second point.
But before you go off that,
sure, go ahead.
Before you go off that, let me just, I'll read you from U.S. Title 28. Any justice must disqualify himself in any of the following circumstances. He, individually, or his spouse has a financial interest in the subject matter in controversy.
No, but she lobbies for groups who are opposed to this health care law.
And raises money doing it. And
right, but that's not the same as what these experts are telling me. So that's fine. I see your point.
That would be game, set, and match. No question about it. He read you the law. Man, that was as convincing a victory as I've seen on cable news. So, but Megyn Kelly has her sources at the Supreme Court, who, by the way, for the record, are on the left. I don't know how the law that Weiner just read you. So the law is very clear. Clearly, Weiner is right here. Then we're going to have some fun, and they're going to get into a shouting match. It's over Elena Kagan and how she has recused herself. Now, focus on the points here as they yell at one another. Listen to what Weiner is saying, listen to what Kelly's saying, and we'll talk about it afterwards.
Justice Kagan has recused herself in fully 50% of the cases this year, so that there's no perception
Well,
whatsoever.
she was the Solicitor General of the United States. That's a different story. She actually had an active role as counsel, which is also in the U.S. Code.
In many cases,
listen.
In many cases, you didn't.
Listen, just let me get to the next point.
Without letting. No. First, let me respond to your point.
No, I'm responding to your point, sir. You mentioned Justice Kagan. I'm just pointing out to the viewers so they know that she was the Solicitor General, and therefore she had to. But let me tell you, sir. Let me tell you. But you're throwing everything at me, so I can't offer any response.
No, but I get an opportunity. You're doing an interview, so let me respond to your question.
Why don't you just do a soliloquy? Okay, you just take it away.
Okay, this is the way interviews work. You ask a question, then I get to answer.
Oh, thank you.
When you put your commentaries at the end, they better be factually correct, and in this case, they aren't.
Was she or was she not the Solicitor General of the United States?
That was not the part that I'm taking exception to, if you let me finish my thought.
I remember covering her confirmation hearing to the U.S. Supreme Court, and we talked about that.
I'm not really sure what goes on at Fox is actually coverage, but we'll get that to another conversation.
Okay.
You said she had to recuse herself. She did not. She chose to in many cases where she had very little role in, simply because of the appearance was there. That's what Justice Thomas should do.
So, and Weiner went on to explain that in cases where she was not even involved, but she had heard the facts, she would recuse herself, okay? So, she has a standard way, way above Clarence Thomas. Again, Weiner's right on the facts. Fun little shouting match there, a little drama between Megyn Kelly and Weiner. Score so far 2-0 in favor of Weiner. Now, at the very end here, I'll show it to you. Weiner winds up, in my opinion, interrupting her a bit too much, but he is right. He says at the very end here, what was your question? So as you're listening to this clip, see if you can find out what question Megyn Kelly is actually asking, or if she's just stating an opinion and Weiner doesn't know how to respond to that. Let's watch.
Can I have my turn?
Sure.
Okay. Because what he said in that tape is,
I
thought I could have my turn. I thought I was getting my turn now. Where's my turn?
Well,
what he said in that tape is that he believes in liberty and his wife believes in liberty. And what's happened in the past is other justices have come out and made speeches. I mean, we've had Justice Ginsburg speak to very left-leaning groups and actually speaking to groups that had cases on abortion and otherwise in front of her, and she refused to recuse herself because we have a trust in our justices. We believe that the justices on the left and the right, if there's an ethical obligation, that they will step down and they don't need politicians or the press pushing on them.
I know you like giving speeches, but you're doing an interview.
I got 20 seconds against a hard break. Go ahead.
What's the question?
Well, you
I heard your speech.
Right,
what's your question?
I got to go, Congressman. Thank you so much for coming on. All the best
Great
to you.
interview. Aces.
Okay, 2 quotes I loved out of there. Aces. And her saying, where's my turn? I thought it was my turn. I know she was being tongue-in-cheek there, but look, final analysis on the substance of that. First of all, she didn't ask a question. She stated her opinion, which is fine. I don't mind. Well, she's supposed to be a news anchor on Fox News. Come on. But assuming that she's an opinion host, which is, of course, in reality what she is, I don't mind her stating her opinion, but she didn't ask Weiner a question. She said, no, my opinion is that we should just trust the judges to do the right thing. And on the substance of that opinion, are you kidding me? You think that's our system of law? She claims that she practiced law for 9 years and covered the Supreme Court for 3 years. Our system of law is, well, there could be conflicts of interest, but let's just trust our justices. No, that is not the law. The law is if you have a conflict of interest, you should recuse yourself. And we don't just trust that people will do the right thing. We have laws to make sure that they do the right thing. Final score, Weiner 3, Megyn Kelly, as usual, 0.
If you're looking for a cool t-shirt, all you have to do is go to bustedtees.com. Pop culture, politics, science fiction, some of their t-shirts have been featured in movies like Knocked Up and in television shows like Scrubs. Their shirts are made in the United States and they're sweatshop free. So if you want to pick up one of these snazzy tees, all you have to do is go to bustedtees.com, enter promo code Young Turks, and you get 10% off your order.